Hello and welcome to our Christmas festive preview. I'm aware that this has been done to the death, so we're going to go for a slightly different approach. Right off the top of the show, Daryl and Jamie are going to give their best bets for the festive period. I will chuck one in as well, just for the sake of it. And then we're going to break it into brackets. So we're going to look at novice hurdlers, novice chasers, and chasers. I'll see how many episodes I split it up into, depending on how long we waffle for. I have, of course, roped in Jamie as our Irish correspondent, so we can get all of the information from that side of the sea. And I've got Daryl involved for no other reason than Daryl makes me look good when we talk on. So we're going to kick straight off with what you guys fancy big style over the weekend. Now, I've really looked at it, and there's a couple of horses that I quite liked. Ground's going to go against me, so there isn't anything that I've got as a proper strong fancy. But Daryl, surely you've got something for us in a handicap somewhere.
In the last at Kempton, it's actually two. It's a 17-runner field, so the prices are fair enough, so you don't mind backing two in this. The two are Barbados Blue for Nick Henderson, been off 595 days, but the one thing I will say is that she makes a handicap debut here off a mark of 119, and based solely on her time figure at Kempton over course and distance back in May on good ground. So I think it's going to be drying towards the end of the week. On good ground, she should be at least £8 well in. She has done the fastest time on good ground at Kempton that I've recorded since I started recording times earlier this year. So she should be of 10 stone 7. And Nico's taking the ride. If she's fitting well first time up, she should take a hell of a lot of beating off a mark of 119. Not there is a danger that she might well need to run after 593 days off. Okay, so I do want to have a cover bet in there. And the other one is, again, not based solely, but on time figures, is Switch Hitter for Paul Nicholls. Now, you don't want to see this horse hanging out the back of the field being held up. You want to see him prominent. He's a relentless galloper. He won over course and distance in a novice hurdle last time out, beating Malanino, who went and bolted up next time. Another one that makes a handicap debut of mark 127. I think he could be a bit better than that. I don't think have anything else in the field, including the likes of Coeur de Leon, including when I went back in time, the likes of R. Powell winning the race over course and distance. Echo, none of these in here have recorded any sort of time figures that are close to the two in Barbados Blue and Switch Hitter. You can get them around 6-1 and 7-1 and 8-1, around that sort of price if you shop around. I think those two, if you back one of those two, I think you can have the winner. I think it's not as competitive as it looks. A lot of these you need to give some poor runs. Looks Jarby Plate's dropping back over hurdles after a poor chase campaign. Brunswick Bay's interesting. Raffield's going to bring in a lot of support just because he's JP McManus and Nicky Henderson. But the two you want to focus on, I feel, are Barbados Blue and Switch Hitter from a times perspective. They are far superior to anything else.
Superb, very well rounded. The only thing you put me off with slightly was when you mentioned about Switch here hanging out the back of, I thought you were going to say you don't want to see him hanging out the back of Barbados Blue.
No, he's a relentless galloper. I don't know if he's got much of a turn of foot. So coming, swinging, going over that third last, you want to really see him in a prominent position just so he can maintain a strong run right through down the Kempton Run straight, right through to the line, because he won't stop. But you don't want him to have to use a turn of foot in behind in a group of horses. He just might take a bit too long to get up with a pace. Last time out, he only won by 3/4 of a length, but he did it well enough. But he was just so babyish. He made a few mistakes in his fences. He's just got so much more improvement to come. He's only had the 2 starts over hurdles, finished second behind Here Comes Johnny, who's not a bad horse actually. He rated 130. He was beating 11 lengths, but that was a fake, and that was never going to suit in that sharp track. He's just a big horse, a relentless galloper, one of those Paul Nicholls' chasers for the future, if you like. But off a mark of 127, I think he's got a bit more to come, especially if he's going to take another step forward from his last run over course and distance.
Happy days. So you've given us the get-out stakes at Kempton on the first day, Boxing Day. Jamie, you have... Normally you do quite well over on these sides of the shore. So have you got anything for us Boxing Day over here?
First day of the 205 at Wetherby. A horse called Windsor Avenue is running the Roland Merrick. Second to Imperial Aura, first time out at Carlisle the last day, and he was pulled up behind Chatham Street Lad in the Caspian Caviar. I think that run was too good to be true. I think at 11-1, I think he's overpriced. That's one for Wetherby on St. Stephen's Day over here, as they call it. And the other one is a horse of Tom Lacey's called the 128 called John Beebe. He won over course and distance last time, won by 6 lengths, I think. 4 of the legs from Cecilia Monroe. I like him. He's up, I think, £6 of the weight. Yeah, from 130 to 136. I still think he's ahead of his mark, and I think he'll win. And whatever price he comes, I don't have no price for it, but John Beebe and Windsor Avenue for me on St. Stephen's Day.
I like it, mate. And that John BB, when me and Darryl started doing that in the saddle for Colossus Bets, Weatherby was the first meeting we did. I said I fancied that John BB. He ended up being a non-runner, and I missed him next time out when he went in quite nicely, didn't he? So fair play. I think he'll be suited around there. And Windsor Avenue as well. Brian Edison's horses were they all drifted. There was an alarming drift on that horse on the exchange Caspian Caviar Day, wasn't there? And then they had a runner some point this week or maybe at the weekend that got backed in and went and won. So I don't know whether there was something going on with that yard for a couple of days or whatever it was, but yeah, Windsor Avenue semi-tempting. Fair play. But that's enough talking about these lowly races. We need to smash into some of the graded action. As I say, I'm going to break up into these little sections. I've sent Darryl and Jamie a list, but being the kind of guy that I am, I think I'm going to go in a slightly different order. I think we should bang off with the chasers because these are the season chasers. These aren't the novice chasers because we can look at the Desert Orchid Chase. We can look at the Paddy Rewards Chase as the 2 mile division, the Champion Chase Sphere, and then we can look at the King George and the Savills Chase. So we will kick straight off with the first race of those that I mentioned, the Desert Orchid Chase at Kempton. So that's Sunday, grade 2 technically. So I said we were going to jump into the grade 1s. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Altior's obviously going to be going in here. Well, Willie, won't he? Who knows? I think he probably will. It's a bit sad that Put the Kettle On isn't allowed to come over it. Not because I was worried about what she'd do, but she does just keep winning, doesn't she? So tiny bit of interest has come out of the race. You put up Global Citizen last year in the Wayward Lad, Jamie, and he's going to run in him again. But away from him in terms of a name, it looks a pretty pants race, and Altior wins, enhances his Champion Chase claims, probably goes ahead of the market. Have I said all that needs to be said, Darryl?
Well, yeah, pretty much. One thing I would say is that Global Citizen is definitely overpriced this year at 16 to 1. I can't believe Rouge Vif is not as short as 9 to 2, and Global Citizen has got his conditions in his 16 to 1. I think that's. I mean, I went through this race a couple of times earlier. I think Global Citizen is the bet. I know he's got to give £3 away, but at 16 to 1, I think that's massive considering he's just going to, you know what he's going to do? He's going to go out in front, he's going to bowl along, he's going to play catch me if he can. I think Rouge Vif is so overrated. I think it's ridiculous. For that one bloody handicap win by 7/11, which his final circuit time was slower than Galvin over 3 miles. It's absolutely ludicrous. But Altior, yes, let's hope he should take all the beating here. He obviously goes very, very well at Kempton. There's very little not to like about him other than the 323 days off the track, and his age, he's a 10-year-old now. But I've been looking to see if there's any signs of decline. I can't really see any, to be honest. I think it's just going to happen one day on the track, perhaps. But let's hope he gets to retirement. Let's hope he wins this. Let's hope he goes and wins the Champion Chase and just proves a lot of doubters wrong. I don't think he's been given the credit he deserves over the years. He's an outstanding horse, and I'd be very disappointed if anything got within 3 or 4 lengths of him here, and he wasn't doing it very easily.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's a horse as well that seems to be, I think he's pretty good fresh. I know obviously it's like a long layoff, but I've always considered his runs get worse as the season goes on, which sounds balmy considering he keeps winning at the spring festivals, but I like him fresh. Jamie, do you think Altior is the Champion Chaser?
No. No. We'll get on to another horse I think is the Champion Chaser. But
we'll do that then. There's nothing more to add for the Desert Orchid.
Darryl just took the words out of my mouth there. Like, you know who I'll tip, and it's Global Citizen 16, 20 to 1 each way. Has his track, will have his ground, and hopefully he'd run into if there's 8 running, he'd run into the first 3, you hope.
Superb. So we're all strangely in agreement there that Altior's going to absolutely bolt up, but Global Citizen's probably overpriced. Be interesting if we could get a without market in there, and if they gave each way 3 places as well, because you'd be all over it. But hey ho. David Bass is vegan as well. Just drop that in there. Didn't know that. The Paddy Rewards Club Chase, the Grade 1 over in Ireland, which is obviously the Irish version of the Champion Chase form line going in there. Chacon Poursoir, think the general vibe after his comeback run was, well, he won, but was it that impressive? We don't really know. Interesting now that he's going to be going up against a proper horse in Notebook. As far as I'm concerned, he proved that he wasn't just a fluke as a novice. Obviously, the Cheltenham form's pants, but I think that personally, I reckon Notebook's going to give Chacun Pour Soi a fright, if not a beating in this race. I don't think I'll be brave enough to bet, but we'll see. That's the way that I see it. Jamie, I'll let you go first on this one.
Or Chacun Pour Soi is, you can't 5-2 on, is it, or something? I see the price earlier today. He'll just win. I think, to be honest, his biggest danger, I think, is going over 3 miles. At Plutar, I think. Plutar's going for the Savills chase. That was his only danger. I'm sorry, I'm not putting a damn squid on yourself or anything. I think that Notebook is no good. I told you that last year. There was a good run. I know he won the last day, but it was I'm obviously a Fakir Dudery fan. I think could be a nice bet for the Ryanair later on in the season, but I wouldn't be disappointed if he run behind Notebook at all the last day. I think Chacun Pour Soi will win. I think he'll win at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I think he'll win the championship.
Jamie. But one thing you did mention there, which was good, Fakir Dudery Ryanair, I've sort of kind of latched onto him a little bit. I think he needs to step up in trip now.
Yeah, he does.
I don't know if he's actually going to go in the Savills chase. I don't think he got declared, did he? I can't remember. But
I don't think so.
That was the only entry I'd held over Christmas. Maybe he didn't come out of the next race so well. Yeah. Maybe they were going up. But he's stand-up 33s with Bet365. He's as short as 16 in other places. So I know that's not particularly what we're talking about here. But in terms of cases for the festival,
we're seriously lacking a 2.5 mile race over Christmas over here, Dave. There's a lot of horses that could run, and then you'll have a better guide then. There's not really a 2.5 mile race in the Dublin Racing Festival either, so that's maybe something the Irish programme should look into, because you have horses going over 2 miles and 3 miles who have absolutely no chance, and then they have no race for them. Then when it comes to in line with Cheltenham, it's all for novices, all 2.5 mile novice races, but there never is for the championship races.
Absolutely. But one person on this panel that I know is going to have to agree with me about Notebook, he's like, honestly, Darryl, he's not crap, is he? He's just pants at Cheltenham.
Mate, look, I don't know how you can sit there and call him crap when he spanked his Fakir in Dow and he's put 12 lengths last time out. It's absolutely ludicrous. Look, this horse is a dual grade one winner. He's a decent horse. Look, there's a couple of things with him. Obviously, he either doesn't like Cheltenham, or there's a possibility that his run against Cashback really took it out of him just 4 weeks earlier. They left everything there. It was a really good time figure. And maybe that's just had an effect 4 weeks later on him. He's come back to Ireland and he's bolted up in a grade 2. So look, he's not a bad horse. He's a decent horse. It's very hard to see him beating Chacun Pour Soi. If you go back to last year at Leopardstown, they raced on the same card. One was Chacun Pour Soi in a Dublin chase. Notebook ran in the Arkle Novice. And there was just, if you compare the two races, there was just really no comparison. Chacun Pour Soi would have blitzed them on the times alone if you'd have had them in the same race. So that's a slight concern. Obviously, Notebook is still improving. I do think Chacun Pour Soi is very fragile. I don't think he's a world beater by any means. If you go through his form and look at the bare form, I can't see how he would be ahead of Altior in the Cheltenham market, really. I mean, he's not got no Cheltenham experience. He's beaten Min, who's clearly best over 2.5 these days. He was beaten by Plutard. He beat Defi Gasol at the end of a long season. And his reappearance was just okay. I'm shocked how short he is in the market champion chase. I probably wouldn't be taking him on here. I think the only form lines worse than Chacun Pour Soi in here is Put the Kettle On. It beat absolutely nothing. It's ridiculous, really. It was a terrible Arkle. Notebook didn't show up. Cashback fell. It just fell to pieces. I couldn't have Put the Kettle On, especially after that reappearance beating Duchess and Ivras. So it's very hard to take on Chacun Pour Soi at this moment, but I'm sure there's going to be a time when we can take him on. I thought Larichberg they were a bit quick to push Larichberg out of 33-1, simply just because he pulled up in that race we couldn't see at Punchestown last time. He took the 200 fences at Leopardstown. He's back on a bit better ground if the ground stays okay. He's interesting, but nowhere near a bet, of course. Chacun Pour Soi is most likely winner. Could I have him for Cheltenham? No. Would I be backing him anti-post for Cheltenham? No. I'll tell you what, there's one thing worth mentioning here, though, is that the two races we've just looked at is going to have a massive effect on the anti-post market, okay? So I can't really see Chacon Poursoir's price getting much shorter for the Champion Chase than what it is now. What's it now, David? I think around 11-4?
Yep.
Around
11-4, 3-1, yeah.
Yeah, I think the one that's going to shorten this weekend is probably going to be Altior around 6-1. So if you don't want to, obviously, back an Altior is going to be a short price at Kempton. Don't want to back Altior, go on the anti-post market, back him at 6-1, because let's just say, for instance, Chacon Poursoir Notebook bail it out and Notebook just comes out ahead better, and Chacon Poursoir was below par. Without Altior even running, I mean, it's going to run after, but without Altior even running, he's going to shorten in the market. If Altior goes and bolts up and proves his well-being, that 6-1 is going to be long gone. You could be looking back now, come the Cheltenham Festival, and saying, how the hell was Altior 6-1 at Christmas? So I think the bet out of the two races, personally, for me, would be Altior 6-1 in the Champion Chase.
Agreed with you there, mate. I think it's just interesting, this particular race, that Chacon Poursoir on ratings and like what he has done, like he does deserve to be fab. I can see like the hype that does surround him, but this is like not a proper test, but it's a much harder race than Altior's got in the Desert Orchid Chase. And I think the good thing you mentioned about Put the Kettle On there as well is now Put the Kettle On and Notebook will be facing each other, where Notebook doesn't have any excuses because we know that he loves the track. Shouldn't be a problem. I mean, obviously watch him in the prelims, but that will probably give us a level of depth on Put the Kettle On, which I was kind of hoping we'd get at Kempton if she ran against Altior. So it'll be interesting to see how it finishes. And you're right to mention the Richeberg as well. I think it's a proper cracking race. And I'd expect Chacon Poursoir will probably win the race, but I would not be shocked if something was in there to beat him. If he did go and win it quite handsomely, then I'd probably give him a little bit more respect for a few minutes anyway. We'll move on to the staying chasers now, because this is the biggest race of the Christmas period for most people. The King George looks an absolute, just a beaut this year. I like races when they get to the point that you can't really break it down, like you can't be confident which way, one way or the other, and you feel like in your head if it was run a few times you could get different results. The best thing about those is when we get the result of the King George, I'm pretty sure we're going to get a fairly emphatic winner. We haven't had any close battles for quite a while. Like the Vitor Q card finish was sublime. Hopefully we do get something like that. But we've got two-time winner Clan des Ober in there, who was nibbled a little bit in the week but coming a bit out now since Santini's been supplemented. Surname, who was favourite for the race last year, who's not even arguably, he is definitely in much better form coming into the race this year. Then you have got Santini that's been supplemented, ran okay-ish in a Feltham there, so maybe just place money for him. I think he's only got to finish fifth to get his £5,000 back, so probably not so stupid from Nicky Henderson like most people think. Waiting Patiently was favourite 2 years ago when Clan des Ober won his first one. There's other horses in there as well to mention, but I probably would suggest it's a match between the two Nichols horses. I couldn't really split them with any real confidence just because it is, like Bristol de Meyer Haydock, is it Death Taxes Clan des Ober and the King George, Daryl?
Yeah, it's an interesting race. Racing TV the other day were playing all the replays back from the King George's. It was just brilliant. It does just go to show you how difficult it is to win for a King George's. These are always highly competitive races, and I mean, this is no easy task for Clan des Ober. Last year's form, I've said it time and time again, I couldn't have him on last year's win alone. There was excuses for most in the field. It was a very depleted field. He beat next to nothing for me. I thought the year before was better. I just don't really know where I stand with him. He has his conditions here, yes. This is, going to be likely his Gold Cup. So there is lots to like about him. I can see best odds 2-1 now. I think 2-1 is a very, very fair price, if I'm being honest, because I can go through the field and write a load of these off. Santini lost the translation. I mean, lost in translation for me, it didn't look like he handled the track at all last year. He looked like he was struggling. I know there was an issue afterwards, but you couldn't really back him at 15-2 on the back of that Betfair chase run. Haydock, it was absolutely awful. St Calvados is interesting. He goes very well fresh, but it's a big ask. Waiting Patiently, is he going to get the ground that he really wants? I like the idea of him stepping up 3 miles for the first time here. For the second time he fell, obviously, in the King George, or unseated. I think he's very interesting. I fancied him for it a couple of years ago. Sorry, we're a couple of years on now. it's a strange one. I do like Surname. I do. I think if he's going to get, I mean, he's proven for me. He's proven that he got the 3 miles at Wetherby. He ran the fastest time from 4 out to the finish than any other race on the card, any other chase race on the card. So for me, he's proven that he stays the 3 miles. I think Kempton would be right up his street. I didn't like the comment that they made where they were thinking about being a bit more reserved with him, not going from the front. Whereas I think he's best when he's pinging out in front, and I think it'd be hard to catch. He makes so much ground at his fence. He's so low and quick over his flights. I think that's one of his big positives, and that would just slightly concern me. At 9-4, 2-1, I think the bet would have to be Clandizobo. I'm not a massive fan of Clandizobo, and I do think he's vulnerable, and I have slagged his form off quite a bit. I would probably side with Surname, but I mean, if I can get 3-1 Surname on the day, I'll probably back it. But that's where I'm sort of at. It's a price sort of thing here for me now. And I'm not a massive fan of that. They're both from the same stable either. So there's just a lot of things that put me off this race. For all, it's a fantastic watching race, of course. But yeah, I'd side with Surname.
Yeah, and it's good to know that we're feeling very similar in the fact that it's like you look at it and it's a mouth-watering race, but it's very hard to try and like argue with the way the bookies have got it priced up. Interesting thing with the Surname factor is they obviously managed to restrain him a bit at Wetherby, didn't they? So I reckon, like you've touched on there, they might do that this year. When you're mentioning about the price there, although you would prefer him to be off the front if you're going to bet him in running, I reckon Surname, when he sits off the pace a little bit, will probably go out in price on the exchanges fairly early on. Like after a couple of flights, if they've settled him back, I reckon he'll be bigger than the price that he is now. So that could potentially be a way in, but then for someone like you would rather see him at the front, so it'd be a negative if he'd back. Lost in Translation was definitely so bad last year, it's too bad to be true. And his Haydock run, they didn't even try him this year, so I'm interested in him, but Tizard this season, I don't know if I can trust him. Jamie, give us the answer. You must have a bit more of a bullish opinion than us.
Oh God, I don't. I don't like it. I suppose horses for courses is Clandizobo. I'm in agreement with Daryl. I think this is Surname's chance now to prove. Is it such a thing? I agree with Daryl saying they're both from the same stable. It's like, is it like a Dem and Cotto Star? It's Surname's turn this time to win it. Do you know what I mean? I agree with you there, Dave, about the Lost in Translation. I remember last year he was 15th to win the race. As Tizard said, pull him at Haydock and then go for the King George. But like his record right-handed, like one run at Caroline. If you watch his run at Caroline, the intermediate chase he run in last year, he kept lugging all the way to the left. Kept lugging all the time. Don't like that. I can't have Santini around Kempton after what? The bag or I beat him in top of the game, beat him in the Feltham. I think there's a horse in here that could be overlooked. I know it was a slow run Gold Cup last year, but I think he's better right-handed, and his next Willie Mullins horse has gone to Cornick at Real Steel. I think he's overpriced at 16-1. Could run into places because I think he's better going right-handed. And I think it was a good run first time out behind Imperial Aura at Ascot. I wouldn't discount him. For some reason, I had a look at it this morning and I said, he has a chance now. I don't think he'll win it. But he could be there. For me, the top 3, probably it's going to be Surname, Clandizobo coming around the corner. But I think it's Surname's chance and I think he'll win,
Yeah, I just thought with Real Steel, I just thought that everything was in his favour first time out.
I know,
At Ascot. I napped him that day, and I just thought everything was in his favour. He goes very well fresh. It's just so disappointing how far he was beaten by Imperial Aura. I mean, you on that basis, you're basically saying that Imperial Aura in the last two runs has improved. God, what? 12, 13 pounds.
Imperial Aura, I think will go off a ridiculous price there in the Ryanair. I think that it will go up probably nearly go off favourite alongside Min, like the way people, the way he's improved, and people think he's improved more, especially after winning a Cheltenham last year. But it's a different track. Like he was beaten by Simply Bets on that track last year. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I think all these Jared Sullivan horses, I think Willie Mullins didn't bat an eyelid when they left. When they left Willie Mullins, everyone was saying, "Oh, Willie Mullins stables." I think Willie Mullins didn't care. To be honest with you, once they left, Loreen is retired. Eglon team decide can't even win a race. He had a horse in Hereford a couple of weeks ago. Oh, that Dol Cheetah was beaten 1-4 or 5 at Hereford. Like, do you know what I mean? I think Willie Mullins said, "Go on, take him." I don't want. Do you know what I mean? I don't care anymore. And they haven't really raced up to par. Now, I would forget, like first run of the season, but the only thing is, like, we were sitting down in the bar last year watching the Gold Cup, and all our eyes were glued to Real Steel and how well he was travelling. 50-1 shot in the Gold Cup. But then you look back at how slow it was running. I was like, that's why he was there. Do you know what I mean? Will he be taken off his feet on in the King George? He might with Frodon. But the only thing with Frodon, will Frodon be able to keep up? Because like Frodon got taken on by Min last year in the Ryanair, and then it's sulked, and that was the end of that. Do you know what I mean? So I think the problem with this race is that Monolly is gone now. So Monolly I think Rachel Blackmore was going to take it up with Frodon and see how far they could take Clandis-Ovo and Surname into the race. The problem is, will Frodon stay there long enough for Surname to cruise into the race? That's my problem with Surname. Will he sulk if he's not there or thereabouts? But it all depends. I think Cobden's going to hold him up because last year didn't work going up in front.
It's such an interesting race, though, isn't it? Because we're obviously not going to know anything about it until the race kicks off. Once we get a couple of flights in, the picture will probably become a bit clearer. Even last year, there was only the 5 or 6 runners in there, but after 4 or 5 flights, you knew that Lost in Translation was gone, Surname wasn't really going at the beginning, and then all of a sudden you've got the first 2 in the bay and out of it, and you've got the reigning King George favourite in front having a field day, and you're just thinking the race is all pretty much already over early doors. This will be completely different because, like you're saying, that even something like a Real Steel, there is a bit more depth in there. Frodon was, I think, sent off 7-2 or 3-1 when he was well beaten in the Feltham that Mike Bite fell in the Royal Vacation one. So, like, I'm glad to see that he's back in a King George. This is probably too competitive renewal for him to run too well in there. Black Op, bless him, wins the Feltham last year, but he's got every right to be an 80-1 poke and probably hoping to get his mark to drop. But how that's going to happen? He's already 147. He's going up against 170s.
St. Calvados is interesting as well. Like, first time out, as Daryl said, it's fresh. Like, you know, like, you wouldn't know with him either. Like, you know what I mean? Ran well last year in the Ryanair, looked like he was going to win there. Like, but you know, Black Up.
It is a cracking race in isolation. But if we look at this as Gold Cup winners, is there a single horse in this race that you're thinking is going to run in here and then could be a Gold Cup horse? Because for me, there isn't one.
Well, there is one, but I don't think this is his track, and it's Santini.
Wow, that's a lie. The thing with this race is that actually this King George is actually a better pointer to the Ryanair than it is over the years than it is the Gold Cup. So from my perspective, I look at this race in terms of the Ryanair going forward. So, you know, that's an alternative. I'd say there is one thing worth mentioning. Last year in the King George, obviously we didn't know Clandis-Ovo had been Surname had been bottomed out by Altior previously until he had run. Clandis-Ovo drifted like the wind that day, out to 11-2, and Surname was heavily backed. I just wonder if there was anything in that, and I just wonder the fact that I'm now seeing 2-1 Clandis-Ovo. I'm just wondering, it'll be interesting to see if the yard, or not necessarily the yard, but if the punters back Surname again and send him off favourite again, and this time will he finally get the job done? And last year was just a bit of a frustrating situation for a lot of punters where they get their money back this year.
Well, I think that's a fair point as well. But if you look at it logically, that hard run between Altior, we know that was a hard run. And you look at Clandis-Ovo the year before, went over to Down Royal. I thought it was a pretty good run. But we talked about this when we did our season review, that was such a long period before the King George. Like, he was fine to have a break in between. He had a bit of a harder, or I say a bit, a very hard race at Haydock because he challenged Bristol Demai. Sam Twitchen-Davis had to ride a finish in him. So they're coming in here with completely different performances. Surname's coming in a lot fresher, isn't he? And probably looking a more settled and complete horse this year, whereas Clandis-Ovo's off the back of it. This is again where everything just spirals around in my head. That 1 minute I'm thinking probably should just back Clan, and then 5 minutes later, oh man, maybe I should be back in Surname. I'll just sit back and wait. If it was gun to the head and someone said you've got to put £1,000 down there, otherwise your dog's going to go, I'd put it on Surname because I quite like my dog. But I couldn't be that confident about him for the fact that Clandis-Ovo has won the King George twice. Anywho, we've talked way too... Well, we haven't really. It's the King George, best race of the weekend. We'll move on to Monday for the Savills Chase. So it's the 225 Leopardstown. We obviously don't know the final declarations for this yet, but, I mean, we've got a pretty good feel for which horses will be going in here. I think this is probably going to be... Well, not probably. This will definitely be a better steer towards the Gold Cup picture at Cheltenham, just because there's a few like nice types that are in here. I'm really, really, really buzzing to see Delta work, because I just hope that first run of the season, he needed it again this year. Jack Kennedy back on board. I'm expecting a bold show from Delta work, and then I'm expecting the 33 to the Gold Cup to be all well and truly sewn up. Look, Jamie, you'll be best to lead us off in this race, because I'm pretty sure you've got this nailed, didn't you? First, second, and third straight tricast.
Well, I don't fancy the favourite in Millenendo. Well, you won 2-1 against a field of seasoned campaigners. Not for me. No, I'd like to see him finish close up, because kind of sneaky feeling about the Gold Cup with him. But I'd like to see him in the first three and there and thereabouts towards the line. I agree with you with Delta Work. Delta Work was beaten 15 lengths the year before down Royal. Now, he's done crap the last day down Royal. Instead of finished 6 lengths behind the Storyteller and Chris's Dream. I think he's overpriced at the 5-1 mark. My only problem is the horse that should not be named, as we always say. Will Jack Kennedy pick him on good ground? And I think he's... The only thing I'd be worried about him is, though, after the last, will he find anything? That's a long run home. That's a long run in at Leopardstown. Trust me, it's a long run home in the 3-mile race. But for me, if Jack Kennedy's on Delta Work is my bet. Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Surely this is going to be 3 in a row in it, Darryl. You've forgiven him now after the RSA. Last season's had the line through it. Is it all aboard Delta Work?
Oh, he's such a good horse. Yeah, I like Delta Work for this. I don't think he'll win the Gold Cup though, but I do like him for this. I agree. I actually really agree with everything Jamie said. Really, I think if Monolith finishes, if Millenarindo finishes close up in first or second, you really want to be looking at him towards the Gold Cup, because this race doesn't really produce horses that go and win the Gold Cup. It produces nearly horses, if you like. The winners of this go on to nearly win the Gold Cup. So for Millenarindo backers, I suppose you wouldn't really want to be seeing him winning here, maybe getting a bit of a hard luck story or something and then going on. But Delta Work, yeah, I completely agree. I love this horse. He's so frustrating, but like I keep saying, the fact that he hits so many fences and still gets so close to these top grade 3-milers, you know, it's just a testament to him. One day he's going to put in a bloody foot perfect round and he's going to absolutely blitz the field that he's with, because he's got such a big engine. Obviously, it's a chancy bet with Delta Work and the way he jumps. But I haven't seen any prices for this race or anything yet. But he's the one I'd be leaning towards straight away. Yeah, I was surprised that Alaho's got an entry in here.
I don't think he'll run there. I think it's a Plutar will run. I'd say a Plutar will run. No, a Plutar would have a chance, but the only thing is that Plutar was hammered by Delta Work at the end of the season 1 year at Punchestown. But Plutar's never won right-handed, so I wouldn't take any of those stats. So Henry Ramhead must see something in him. No, he's a decent horse. He's 167 horse. Well, all but name. But
surely Alaho's going to go Ryanair route, haven't he?
Ryanair, yeah, definitely. Like, you know, I still think that Plutar could end up in the champion chase. To be honest with you, I can't see him being a 3-miler. But look, if I'd be seriously worried though, because Mark Walsh didn't have a clue last year on Delta Work in the Gold Cup. Now he jumped crap. But I think Delta Work needs Jack Kennedy for some reason or another. My problem is I'd be seriously worried if he picks Sempro over him though.
Well, that's it. So we can wait for the final declarations. Obviously, they're not out at the moment, but I can completely echo those thoughts with Jamie. If you're back in Delta Work, you need Jack on board. No offence to Davy Russell, but Davy Russell lost in the RSA. Useless. But the good thing about this race is, like Darryl said there as well, it might not necessarily lead to the Gold Cup winner, but it's always a pretty decent race. This year's renewal is still fascinating because there's so many big names in there. But if you look at the official ratings, you've got the likes of Monolith that's probably going to go to Tremor against Album Photo, Presenting Percy, Presenting Percy, no thank you. Then you're getting down to a Plutard, 167 rated, but obviously he's trying the trip for the first time, so it doesn't really stand up that much in terms of confidence. Kenboy, is he really the force of old anymore? I don't think so myself. So that leaves Delta Work, who already is 170 rated. He's probably on figures when you're looking at it. Is probably the best part of a stone clear of some of these horses, I think, or at least half a stone clear of them. I think definitely when we get final decks, if Jack Kennedy's on board Delta Work, I would be looking at Delta Work as a decent bet for this. And honestly, off the back of him running well in this race, he's 33 to the Gold Cup. He will not be 33 to the Gold Cup after this run. So not saying he's going to win a Gold Cup, but that's probably the time to get into him. I feel like it would be interesting if Mellon runs in here, because Willie Mullins has talked about potential Gold Cup, but we'll see. Tornado Flyer, he said he was going to get a win and a hat. Well, try and turn him into a Grade 1 horse. Run okay the last day. There'll be a few interesting ones. And given the fact that something like Sam Crow could run in here as well, we might just get a bit of a fly in the ointment. Something's going to surprise in it, I think. And
yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting when these horses are stepping up markedly in trip now. It just changes the whole dynamic of any race. I hate these boring races where you've got these 3 miler, 3 miler, 3 miler, 3 miler, 3 miler who just, their formulas just intertwine. One wins and the other one wins. I love it when you get a group of horses like this, where like Sam Crow's now stepping up to 3 mile. There's just that unknown about it, and it builds excitement for me.
Superb. So that is us covered for the chasers. We're going to move on to hurdlers next, I think, because we'll just go for the all-age competitions, and then we'll do some novice stuff after. So I'm going to wind this video up now because it saves me editing after, and then we'll kick off, record again, and jump in with the hurdlers.